Initially, I thought I was going to get all the videos done within 4 videos. However, shit just didn't work out that way. I could have done all 20+ minute videos, but I think it was just easier breaking shit up into 5 videos instead of 4 larger ones. So as you can see by the time limit on this one, it's much shorter than the others because there were just remaining questions I couldn't squeeze into the other videos. We'll just put it this way. It's an extra video, tell the YouTube auditor to go fuck himself. Next question from Wavy213, with the low cost of oil or gas or whatever, the whole Black Tuesday thing in Russia with the ruble, and of course our $17 trillion plus debt, do you have any suspicions that they've been lying to us on another Great Depression or a World War III may break out? Man, that was some broken ass English. But look, Russia is in a shitstorm of their own causing right now, and I said this before, but Putin wants to be a stubborn, defiant motherfucker. Gas prices are low because there is far too much supply to demand in the world right now. With the oil boom in North Dakota and the United States, the price of oil has plummeted. Saudi Arabia doesn't want to cut production, and essentially that means Russia's biggest export is now useless. Combine that with the economic sanctions for invading Ukraine. Basically, they're on the verge of quite a recession that's going to begin within a few months. Now, as for World War III, I think Putin's a little bit smarter than that. Sure, he's antagonizing countries by sending fighter jets all over Europe. Sure, he's full of bluster when it comes to how many nukes they have, when the odd thing is they don't even know how many they have since they lost the majority of those shits. Isn't that a scary thing? Russia doesn't even know where the fuck half their nukes are, whatever, man. But right now, Russia has no powerful allies in the world. China does not get along with the United States or Russia, but they get along with their money. And right now, the United States and Europe are better financial choice for China. So, they would stay neutral unless one of the two sides ended up attacking them in the war, which I don't see happening anyway. The main thing China want to do is make sure if there was a war, it didn't spill over into their country. So, their only option for Russia in starting World War III would be to use nukes, which all but assures the process of mutual world destruction. By setting off your nuke, the United States would do so as well, thus killing off pretty much everything across 2 land masses. I don't think Putin is that defiant. I don't think he's that fucking stupid or stubborn, but he does like to raise a little bit of feathers when it comes to his rhetoric and shit like that. I highly doubt he would even attempt to start World War III, knowing it would mean the destruction of almost all of Eastern Russia. There is no way in hell he would be able to survive a full world war on his own against 30+ countries, and his only 2 fucking allies are North Korea, which is basically just a pile of shit, and Syria, which is also already in strife and civil war. It's not happening. He's much smarter than that. Jacob Latiza wants to know, what do you think of the current Pope and why? He's not bad, actually. I like this guy a lot better than the Nazi who quit before him. You know, in the short time he's been the Pope, he's softened a number of ridiculous stances the church has held on to for years, including people who are gay, divorced, priests molesting little boys and not just moving them to a new location to protect the church from lawsuits and shit like that. Oh man, those old motherfuckers. Anyway, he's not the old stodgy grouch that quit on Catholics last time. Which, by the way, that fucker of a Pope quitting on his job, doesn't that all but legitimize divorce? Think about this for a second. Tradition was that popes held office until death. According to the church, marriage is until death do you part. So if that motherfucker is quitting before his death, then so can married couples, and churches can't bitch at that shit anymore. Fucking hypocrites, man. Anyways, I like the new Pope hasn't done anything stupid yet, and that they finally got away from all the European popes and they gave another continent a chance at being a pope. It still doesn't change how I feel about Catholicism in general, but at least they put a better guy in charge. That shows the church has the ability to change from their old traditional school ways of bullshit. Next question from Mr. Final Prestige. There was an article on Yahoo that listed the best food cities and said New York was going to be upset with their ranking. Yes, I know the exact article because I read the motherfucker. New York City was listed as number 2 behind New Orleans. As a New Yorker, are you upset being number 2 behind Nolans? You know, I remember when I saw that shit, my first thinking was, if this shit has us anywhere outside of the top 3, then I know this list will be bullshit. So I started right from the bottom, worked my way up, and then I noticed number 2, and I was like, oh, what the fuck are they talking about that we're going to be mad? And without seeing who number 1 was, my initial thought was New Orleans better be number 1 because that's the only place with food I would consider on par with New York, and sure enough, they were. Now, the article was asking what's the best food town as opposed to who has the best food, and that's a big difference because the survey was about best food. Yeah, then I'll be wondering who the fuck made the goddamn list because nobody's beating New York. But since it said the best food town, New Orleans is a better food town than New York City. When you think of New York City, so many things come to mind. Financial capital of the world, museum capital of the world, Statue of Liberty welcoming visitors and immigrants, as well as our food. Food just happens to be one of the many things that we have here in New York City. But with New Orleans, food is always first. New Orleans is defined by their food, and people will go there just to eat the food. People go on food tours, food vacations, because New Orleans has some of the best food creations you can imagine. From Oysters Rockefeller at Antoine's, to Bananas Foster's at Brennan's, Willie Mae's Scotch House, the Napoleon House, beignets at Cafe Du Monde. Oh, the list goes on and on of all the creations that they've made over their generations. And granted, with each one of New Orleans' signature dishes, New York has something to rival that. They have beignets, we have zeppelis. They have the muffalettas, we have cacio pastrami, gumbo, etouffee, red beans and rice. We have bagels and pizza and every ethnicity possible in the city. But New Orleans will always be a food town above all else. Sure, it's known for Mardi Gras for college kids and girls with fake titties. But those who live in New Orleans or have been to New Orleans will tell you that food is the best part of visiting there. New York will never have that. Our food is amazing. I'd argue even better than New Orleans at certain things, but nobody leaves New York saying our food was the best reason to come here. When you leave New Orleans, all you can think about is all the amazing shit that you ate there. That's why it's a better food town. Not that they have better food, it's that it's known as a food town, whereas New York is known for a whole bunch of things, and yes, we also have some of the best damn food on the planet. Next question from Gorthax Almighty, and that sounds like a motherfucker I just beat in Destiny. Doesn't that sound like some hot motherfucker that you need to shoot in the head or some shit? Wait a minute, I ain't gonna make fun of this son of a bitch. Anyway, his question, what do you think of Interstellar Marines and indie games in general? Below is just a lot of information. You guys can read all that if you want to read that bullshit. Now, as far as Interstellar Marines, I don't really know much about the game, but I do know a little bit about it. I know it's a Steam release game, it was for PC, and it was supposed to be some kind of realistic or immersive experience or some shit like that. I know that they said it was going to be released as an incomplete game, and that through patches and updates and all this other shit in the future, the game would improve over time. So, it's a long-term investment type game, but being an indie type game, that's ambitious to say the least. They're attempting to make a AAA game on a shoestring budget and hope that fans stick around long enough to see the end product. To me, that's an incredibly dangerous idea, because if fans leave the game and never come back, you will never get them to see your end product, whether or not it's good or bad. If they're not happy with the opening stages of what you're calling a complete game, there's a good chance you're going to lose some people at the beginning and you're going to lose some of your long-term investment money. Personally, I wish them luck, but I just can't see that kind of business model being effective compared to other indie games that are able to produce quicker games, or the AAA games that obviously have the budgets that are a million times higher than theirs. Now, as for indies in general, I always root for the little guy against the big guy, but I just can't get into most of these. You know, they're either side-scrollers, platformers, puzzles, stick shooters, whatever. Majority of them, they just don't have enough variety, they just don't have enough content or meat in the game to keep me entertained. Again, I don't knock indie games because obviously they do have limited resources, that's the point, but the games just aren't for me. I hope that the games and studios succeed, because you don't want to see the little guys go out of business and whatnot, but I just rather stick to the top-notch games. Am I Too Lethal wants to know, he's going to open up a can of worms and ask me where do I stand on the whole Gamergate issue and its effect on gaming. I'll just say this right now, Gamergate has to be the stupidest fucking drama I have ever seen in my life, and is pretty much adhering to every stereotype about gamers. It's really pathetic that I share my hobby with so many clueless, kicked-in-the-head scumbags who truly give normal video gamers a bad name. For those that don't know, I'll give a very brief rundown. A website was covering a small indie game with a little more press than normal for an indie title. Turns out the creator of the game, I believe, was dating one of the editors or something like that. I don't know the exact part of it. So when the game came out and it was reviewed as an average or mediocre game, the pitchforks came out towards the website and the woman who created the game. Video game journalism ethics were questioned at that point. Gamers sort of had a legitimate point. I don't agree with it, but it was a legitimate point that they brought up about favoritism and how much free press games receive. But the asshole gamers didn't just stop there. Instead of continuing a valid conversation about why certain games receive more coverage than others, the assholes had to go and screw it up. They started attacking the woman over the internet, hacking her personal info, putting her address online, harassing her, sending her death threats. She was understandably frightened. You just never know the lengths some sick and twisted motherfucker would go in this world. But assholes at websites like 4chan, they kept up the attack, and thus Gamergate was coined, or whatever the fuck they wanted to do this shit. What started out as a rational conversation turned into utter bullshit. Now, in defense of this woman, websites stood up for her. Other journalists stood up for her, including other women who turned this into a battle of sexes. Why was a woman attacked in this manner as opposed to a man? Why is she receiving death threats and rape threats when that doesn't happen to male video game makers? Essentially, this was turned into a shitfest and showed 4chan at its absolute pinnacle of stupidity. These dickwads pretty much nailed every negative stereotype and stigma towards gamers from the general public. That we're angry, we're out of touch with reality, sexist, racist, and do all of this from the anonymity we have behind a computer. It absolutely disgusts me. These fucking idiots would threaten a woman like this because her game wasn't that great. It repulses me that they would attack another female journalist for saying exactly what needed to be said and how the gaming community views women. It shows how fucking immature and clueless these assholes at 4chan and other similar websites are, and why gamers have such a negative view from the general public. Personally, I think the laws need to change regarding the internet. The internet has been protected far too long from the freedom of speech, but when that freedom includes threats and verbal harassment of someone, the laws and punishment need to be harsher. Hacking into a woman's account should have never occurred. And if it were up to me and I was judging the case, I would give the person who did that a minimum of a 10-year prison sentence for identity and first-degree menacing. I think the penalties for hacking and harassment beyond anonymity need to be increased tenfold because kids are fucking idiots. Remember when someone asked a question about bad kids and bad parenting? This is the result of bad parenting. Kids who are knowingly doing something wrong behind the privacy walls of the internet, because half of these fucksticks wouldn't dare do that shit in person because they're far too pussy to do so. If it were up to me, shit like this would come with much severe, harsher penalties because it would make people think twice about harassing someone online. I swear, if I was a judge in any kind of case like this, the guilty fuck would be in prison for a long time, getting ass raped the same way they threatened that woman over the goddamn internet. Next question, and look at this motherfucker's name. Kills that kills. I don't know what the fuck. What do you think of the new Eminem versus the old Eminem bullshit his old fans sang? To me, it's a bunch of bullshit. And it always seems like musicians go through this, whether it's Mariah Carey, Jay-Z, Ozzy Osbourne, U2, you name it, they've been scrutinized over the years for stupid shit. You know, part of this goes back to what I said in the first video about music. When people aren't buying music anymore, artists need to adjust to those people who are buying their music. So when longtime listeners to a musician do not pay for their music anymore, they're naturally going to cater to those people who are paying for their music. People are always going to bitch when their favorite artist has to change their style. Although Eminem hasn't made any drastic changes. I mean, it's not like he became a country singer or some shit. He's still picking on celebrities. He still makes one party song, one angry song, and one song about his struggles per album. So basically, he's still doing the same shit. You know, I don't see what all the bitching's about, man. You know, if artists don't change, then people will claim they're a one gimmick act. If they do change, then they say they're sellouts that cater for money. It's a no-win situation of bullshit, and it just seems like if this is going on for Eminem, he's just one of many artists that came before him that went through this exact same bullshit. Anyways, that does it for part 4. Just one more video to go, and that will be tomorrow. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's final video.